Chocolate Fever by Robert Kimmel Smith, Chapter 7. In the schoolyard. It was almost 2 hours later now, and the sun was somewhat lower in the sky. Henry looked cautiously out of the garage, saw no one, and started on his way. He walked for a long time, trying to stay on the side streets and being careful to avoid attention. It was not easy. People kept staring at him. Henry ignored them and kept on walking. In the middle of the street down which he was walking stood a school. Henry could see lots of boys playing in the schoolyard. He decided to walk through the yard to get to the next street. As he started through, all the boys stopped playing basketball and pitching in and roller skate hockey to look at him. It was as if all the noise and action had become frozen, like a movie or a TV show that stopped suddenly. Henry kept going. As he was about halfway through, just about in the middle of the yard, the kids seemed to come to life again. In less time than it takes to tell about it, he was surrounded. Henry looked around him. All the boys stared back. They had formed a tight circle around him. Henry didn't like it. One of the tallest boys, who looked a good deal older than Henry, spoke up. "Boy, are you ugly," he said. "Yeah," said another boy in the crowd. "Really ugly." "Ugly," echoed the other boy. I'd better be polite, Henry thought. "Excuse me," he said in a quiet voice. "Could I get through, please?" The boys didn't move. The big boy, who seemed to be the leader, spoke again. "I've seen pimples before, but those are ridiculous." "They're not pimples," another boy said. "They're warts." "Yeah, warts," said another. "They gotta be warts." Now all the boys were speaking up. "Ugliest warts in the world! In the world, man! They're the ugliest warts in the universe! I thought I seen ugly kids before, but this one is out of sight. Horrible! Disgusting! Revolting! And he smells, too," a fat boy with glasses said. "Yuck, like a stupid candy factory. Nauseating." The more the boys called him names, the worse Henry felt. He opened his mouth to say something, but nothing came out. The big boy in the crowd held up his hands to silence the others. "Quiet down, you guys," he said. "I want to talk to Mr. Ugly here." In a few moments, the crowd was silent. "Now then," the big one said, "you, Mr. Ugly, what's your name, kid?" Before Henry answered, he thought carefully. He was ashamed of himself and the way he looked, but he was even more ashamed of the gang around him. How dare they act so mean? He hadn't harmed them, and now, when he could certainly use a friend, they had clearly marked him as an enemy. Henry got angry, but he kept his anger firmly under control. "My name is none of your own business. It's my concern, not yours." The gang hooted and shouted at Henry's reply. A few even whistled. "Don't be fresh, kid," the big boy said. "We don't like fresh kids here." A few of the larger boys edged closer to Henry, closing the ring around him tighter. "Let me hit him, Frankie," a voice said. "Let me get to him," another boy said. Henry thought quickly. "Touch me and you die," he said. "I have a rare and mysterious disease. Whoever touches me will catch it and die a horrible death." The gang stopped closing in on Henry. "Oh, yeah," said the big boy. "You expect us to believe that?" "I don't care whether you believe it or not," Henry said. "You're bluffing." "Bluffing?" Henry said. "Touch me and you'll find out if I'm bluffing. I have chocolate fever, one of the most horrible and catching diseases in the world." "Chocolate fever?" echoed the big boy. "You're making it up." Henry could see that he had the crowd on the run. "Chocolate fever is the worst disease ever discovered on Earth," he said. "You know what happens if you get chocolate fever? Your whole head swells up, your mouth gets dry, you break out in big chocolate spots like me. You begin to look ugly. And then the really bad stuff begins." The boys were listening closely now, and the circle around him was beginning to widen as the gang started to back away. "He's making it up, fellas," Big Boy said. "Don't listen to him." But the boys were listening all right and believing every word. Henry began to walk toward the boys. As he did, they made way for him. Slowly, a path opened, giving him room to get by. "I don't want you to die," Henry said as he passed through the ring of boys, "so you'd just better let me be on my way." None of the boys tried to stop him. Even Big Boy, as Henry passed close by, made no move to touch him. Just as Henry neared the outer ring of boys, he heard one of them exclaim, "Hey, I know who he is. I heard it on the radio when I came home from school. There's a kid who ran away from the hospital this morning, and the police are looking for him. His name is Henry Green." Big Boy called out as Henry kept walking, "Is that you, kid? Are you Henry Green?" "Henry Green?" Henry called back over his shoulder. "Never heard of him." Just the same, as soon as he was clear of the schoolyard, Henry broke into a run and didn't stop until he had left the gang far, far behind him.